Guys, Ororon is a new character coming out in 5.1 alongside Chaska, and is looking like very interesting and strong. Let's jump right into it to see what he does. So, he's a 4-star Electro Bow character and is mainly meant to be used off-field. Right off the bat, this theoretically puts him in a tough spot, because that all matches what Fischl is 1-to-1. Still, this is not a bad thing, because Ororon has a lot of things going for him that differentiate him from Fischl. Kit-wise, he's quite diverse in the ways he can deal damage. I will start from the most relevant thing about him, which is obviously the Night Soul Blessing state he can enter, since he is a Nathan character. Unlike other characters that preceded him, Ororon's Blessing state isn't tied to any ability he has to activate, but rather functions as a passive that's enabled when his teammates do something. Specifically, when either an Electro Charge reaction or a Night Soul Blessing related attack is triggered and he has more than 10 Night Soul points, he will enter the Blessing state for 6 seconds. This already defines his affinity with Electro, Hydro or Nathan characters in general. This team-building aspect of his is strengthened by the fact that his main way of getting Night Soul points is either Electro or Hydro characters hitting opponents, or Nathan characters triggering Night Soul bursts. These Night Soul points can then be spent every 1.8 seconds if opponents are, again, hit by either Electro Charge or Night Soul type attacks, and this will trigger a strong Electro hit coming from Ororon. Just to contextualize a bit, Night Soul type attacks are all attacks Nathan characters deal while in their Night Soul Blessing state. Ororon only needs Night Soul type attacks to trigger this hit, so he can be a reliable sub-DPS on Nathan teams in general. The interesting part here is that this hit will automatically track up to 4 opponents in total, and this by default means that he has AoE properties a character like Fischl lacks. Genshin making AoE sub-DPS is a rarity in general, and off the top of my head, only Xiangling and Nahida are prominent in this kind of niche. Even more recent sub-DPS like Chiori and Emily have kits that are rather single-target oriented, so them making AoE the focus on a 4-star sub-DPS is pretty interesting. Interestingly, through Night Soul Burst and Night Soul type attacks specifically, Ororon can activate these attacks even if he never enters the field, while he needs to use his skill to generate points off of Hydro or Electro attacks. Basically, assuming you have the right teammates, Ororon can produce off-field damage consistently even if he never enters the field, which by itself has a lot of value, considering that as a Nathan character, he can hold the scroll set to support the rest of the team. Him potentially being at 0 field time support of this kind will probably have a lot of use, but of course this is not all he has going for him. His elemental skill is rather simple. He will just unleash an electro attack that will hit one opponent and then jump towards other opponents in range to damage them. So just like his passive attacks, this skill has considerable AoE properties, which is nice, but the more interesting part is the passive tied to it, which makes active Electro or Hydro characters restore up to 9 energy in total by attacking after the skill is used. The 9 energy is shared between the entirety of the team's attacks, so if you want this to affect a specific energy-starved character like Sino, you should take the field with him right after using Ororon's skill. Ororon will also be recovering an additional up to 9 energy himself through this effect, which combined with the fact that the scroll set will make him recover energy as well, makes him extremely easy to build in that sense. Talking about energy, his burst is a pretty nice aspect of his kit as well, as it summons an Electro Psionic Eye that will deal some damage on cast and then continuously for 9 seconds within a circular range that is similar to Bennett's Elemental Burst Insights. As a baseline, the total damage of this ability is not bad, and the fact that it conditionally deals electro damage within its range also potentially gives Ororon some uses on teams like Hype Bloom, although it seems its uptime will be lower than things like Cookie and Raiden's elemental skills. Still, nice for him to have this type of use as well potentially, considering the rest of the things he also has going for him. Before I move on, let me remind you that if you enjoy my content but you haven't subbed yet, please consider doing so, because it really makes me notice your support. So, as a whole, Ororon presents himself as a character that can deal decent damage, while also being able to support the team through energy-related effects, and most importantly the Nathan Scroll set, which will make him provide 40% damage bonus to all the elements he triggers reactions with. Considering how plug-and-play Electro is in terms of elemental reactions, this is really nice. Even ignoring the synergy with other Nathan characters, because it's pretty much unconditional, Electro Charge is a very versatile reaction, because it can be slotted in even on teams like Vaporites, for example. In those scenarios, if enough Hydro Aura is retained during Electro Charge, Pyro characters can still vape off of it. Naturally, Ororon can buff Pyro characters to the Nathan set by triggering overload reactions, so its support can effectively extend further than just Nathan, Electro and Hydro characters. Electro Charge compositions are by themselves pretty strong, because they allow for the presence of characters like Furina, Yelan, beneficial, so sub DPS that can deal a lot of field damage. Also, the electrocharge damage itself is getting buffed significantly in 5.1. I'm gonna talk about this more in a dedicated video, but its output got increased significantly in the new beta, so as a whole, it's a concept that will have a steadier meta presence. Damage-wise, if you look at raw numbers, Ororon is not impressive compared to most other sub DPS, but again, the thing with him is that basically all of his damage will hit up to 3 or 4 targets, which typically also matches how many opponents we face in the base in a single wave, at most. This means that in AoE scenarios, his off-field output can be better than other sub DPS even at low Constellation level, and considering the strong supportive aspects he has going for him as well, this makes him a really promising character as a whole. Moving on, his constellations are pretty decent, but I wouldn't say they are needed. They are mostly a straight increase to his damage output, with the Constellation 1 increasing his elemental skill damage, his Constellation 2 giving him electro damage bonuses. Constellation 3 and 5 are both talent level increases, but considering that a large part of his damage comes from his passive, which doesn't scale off talents, they result in a smaller damage increase than they normally are. Naturally, this also makes Ororon easy to build, as his reliance on talents is lower than that of other characters. His Constellation 6 is his most interesting constellation, as on top of making his burst deal more damage, it also gives Ororon even more supportive properties. It makes him provide the active character attack bonuses each time his passive attacks are triggered, up to 30% at 3 stacks. This is pretty good, but not really on the level of other supportive constellations we've gotten in the past for 4 stars, and it's even situationally useless considering several characters they can fit with either don't benefit much from attack buffs or not at all. All in all, while definitely a character that benefits from his constellations, obviously, his core usage is fully available at Constellation 0 already, which is fantastic for a 4-star that will come out on banners that most people won't go all in on, probably. Team-wise, as I said, Ororon is pretty diverse, as it can fit on Atlant teams as well as Electrocharge teams and all the team concepts that can synergize with its elemental properties. I haven't calculated Vaporite's teams yet, because I'd rather see some footage on them first to gauge how consistent they are in terms of elemental application, but what I'm seeing on other teams makes me quite hopeful about Ororon's future potential. For the rest, Natlant's meta isn't really fleshed out yet, as in terms of main DPS we have Moalani that only wants to be used on Vaporite's team, Kanech is a burning DPS that of course doesn't really want Ororon, and then some general use supports in Kachina and Shilonen. Chaska will fit well with him on some Electrocharge teams. She can also enable even more True Sword chain reactions, and considering she should come out alongside him probably, this is nice. I find it very likely that once Mahuika comes out, Ororon's usage will expand a lot, potentially even into Chevreuse teams, because by virtue of being a Nathan character, Mahuika can feed Ororon's Ascension 1 passive single-handedly. As a whole, I'm really happy about what I've seen from his kit so far, and honestly, I wouldn't have been that surprised if his kit was used for a 5-star instead. Rather than being a official competitor or replacement, it feels more like a Beidou upgrade, because just like his damage, hers is more AoE oriented. However, Beidou's damage is much clunkier in terms of execution, since it requires the opponents to constantly be really close to each other. Ororon seems more flexible in that sense, and considering he has plenty of support on top of it, it should be a pretty good meta option even at Constellation 0. And with this, I'm done for today. If you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe, and also go check the top 5 5-star video I made a few days ago. Bye bye.